You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
Miss Kamala Harris, it has been said that you have done some things in your past. It has been said that you have slept your way to the top. You've slept with your boss and you slept with entertainers. You slept with Mr. Willie Brown. And from what they've said, that you have destroyed his family life. You destroyed his family because he was a married man and you had an affair with him. It has been said. And it has been said that you were also with Mr. Entertainer Montel Jordan, or Montel Williams, I believe it was Montel Williams, who took you around and brought you through the society, through the scenes. And so again, you have destroyed more families. What do you say to that, Miss Kamala Harris? How do you expect to win the women's vote, the black women vote, the white women vote, the Hispanic women vote, any kind of woman with a vagina? How do you expect to win that vote, Miss Kamala Harris, when you have destroyed families and family homes? You, please tell us. Go. 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 Man, these Negro Democrat women dinosaur reporters are deadly. Man, you come with an inch and day attack like beasts. Arr!
The Hatosaurus rex, often known simply as Rachel. This bigoted creature believes she has ensnared the Donald with her divisive rhetoric, carefully crafted to inflame racial tensions within America.
Now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you?
You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
The Hatosaurus rex considers herself to be a covert weapon within the Democratic Party's arsenal. Yet her efforts are anything but secret. A vast number of Americans, with their discerning gaze, easily see through the Hatosaurus rex's race-baiting tactics.
Hello, friend, and welcome to The Conservative Poet. My name is Amania. Here on the channel, I do political reactions, commentary. I throw some parody, some skit, some humor in there to drive home the crazy that we're seeing in the society. If that is something that is interesting to you, then you've come to the right place. And I would only ask that you interact with the video. You can give it a like, thumbs down, share it, comment. Really does help me out with the YouTube algorithm. And you can do a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. So I thank you in advance for that. Do it right now. Do it right now. I thank you in advance for that. So without further ado, we're going to get into this video right now. President Trump, always a class act. But when pitted against liberal Democrat propagandists, reporters, broadcasters, journalists, well, President Trump just has to push back just a little, just to correct some of them, to put them back in line. And that is exactly what he did with this reporter, Rachel, as she was the first one amongst the journalists to bring President Trump on. As you can tell, her demeanor, her energy was very, very bad. And as she posed the questions to President Trump, he had to tell her, you know what? You are very rude. You are disgraceful. Your attitude is bad. Your whole persona. Are you with ABC News? And so obviously, because ABC News and these CNN and MSNBC, they are all the same, and they treat him just the same. Here you have the president of the United States come onto your platform to address, journalists, you, the people, the media, and this is how you welcome him. You don't even welcome him. He just comes on, sit down, and you go at him with like a bulldog, right? And so he had to set her in her place. And so we're going to respond to President Trump and these journalists as he take down, one of the most rudest one we've seen yet. They must get their memo from the same place, because Abby Phillips does the same thing. They must really get their memo. When they say, we're talking to Trump, this is how you do it. And so many of them do it. They get the same memo and they all react the same thing. They all do the same thing. Mean, nasty women. You ready? Let's go. Friends, are these fake news reporters, propagandists for the Democrat Party, stressing you out when you need the news and they give you propaganda and you need to relieve that stress? Well, friend, welcome to the Orlando Patriot, where we offer patriotic candles to do just that, to ease your stress. So you can go to theorlandopatriot.com and pick yourself up any flavor, smells you want. We have cinnamon, 5 different scents for whatever it is that you need. So get 30% off your purchase, orlandopatriot.com. Grab that candle and grab one for friends and family, because like you, they are having problems and they are stressed out by the propaganda as well. And throw this one in for your liberal friend who really needs your help. I'll see you there. OrlandoPatriot.com. 30% off your purchase price.
As journalists, we use opportunities like these both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact-check this conversation in real time. You can access that feed on social media using the hashtag NABJFactCheck. Again,
So I really like the way she starts by, we are going to fact check in real time. It's the way she said it. We're going to fact check in real time. Like, she emphasizes that, like, we're going to do this in real time. Donald Trump can't say nothing because we're going to fact check him in real time. Anyway, let's go. Let's go.
Hashtag is NABJ Fact Check. We have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste any time. So let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump. Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are...
There's a question pending in there? Like, she's laid out all of this. You're pretty much the devil himself. You are pretty much the devil yourself. But my question, sir, I didn't go to journalism school. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it. I did have dreams of being a journalist, though. God had other plans, or life had other plans.
Asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was
Mr. President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer the
very
question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian.
She heard nothing. Everything he just laid out there, she heard nothing, because she is continuing in the same manner and the same tone of her question, just angry black woman tune, angry black woman, demeanor. And it's not even called for. Like, okay, he just laid out a whole lot there. You were late. At that point, you could have said, Mr. President, we did have some issues, friends. We did have some problems, but you know what? Thank you for sitting around waiting while we got ourselves together. Like, she could have acknowledged some of the things that he said. The things that he said about historically black colleges, all of the things that he has done for the black population, the opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott, all of these things that he has done, a great advocate for black people. No, she's gonna just continue to bulldoze, as opposed to just doing a refresher and let's start it over. Mr. President, welcome. They have no cordialness. They just, yeah. Anyway, continue.
Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead.
Before he goes, so you want him to what? Call up everybody. You guys are being ultra mean to Kamala Harris. Stop saying she's a DEI. She is a DEI. She did not deserve it. She did not deserve her position. She was offered the vice presidency because she has a vagina, because she has a poo-poo, she has a cocoa, as some would say. She has a vagina. And that's why she was hired. Biden said it. I'm going to hire a black woman. What else is that? That's a DEI. You don't deserve it, but we're going to give it to you based on your genitalia, your vagina, and your skin color. At this time, he didn't say he was going to get an Indian. He said black. And so now Indian is now black, but we're going to digress. We're going to let it go.
How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is...
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask, continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that
President Donald Trump is beastly deadly? Like, yo, he just laid it out perfectly. She was a Indian. Man, there's pictures of her with her Indian family and their Indian, garments, because Indians dress differently than, the other cultures. They have their red dots and, they're Indian. That's what you are. That's what she is. She's Indian. And so that's her culture. So are you turning your back on your culture and your people so you can win black votes? So you can, continue this propagandist nonsense? You're going to turn your back on your own people, and it only benefits you when it benefits you. So I believe that there's a large Indian population where she's from in California. So she paraded herself as Indian with her red dot. I wish I had a red dot right now. Just put my lipstick on. She paraded herself as Indian to win the Indian vote out there in California, to get her in as prosecutor or whatever, senator, whatever she had to use them for. And now that she's gotten that, she needs a more broader, because the Indians are really much more in that area. So now she needs a more broad. So now she's going to become the black queen. She's going to become the black woman, right? Because now she's got to go into different areas. She's got to reach out and pull out some other votes. And the Indian population just ain't going to cut it, right? So she's got to tap into the Negro. She got to tap into Negro. But honey, does she have Negro in her? No, she's Indian and Jamaican. She ain't black. And President Trump is right. One day she's this, one day she's that. Which one are you? We don't know. We don't know if she's black or she's Indian. Which one are you? Nobody knows.
President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have said.
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that.
Well,
interview.
You told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are.
Before Harris go on, this is a class act, right? She is a class act. She runs circles around this elephant in the blue, right? I don't know about this woman in the middle. We'll find out who and what she's all about. But we know that Rachel in the blue is Democrat propagandist. And again, for her to have the opportunity to welcome President Trump onto their platform, you're looking here, you're seeing 3 black women, right? And this one comes out here and attacks the man. And again, Harris is a class act, her in the pink, class act. She is professional, lovely, and this woman can learn a thing or two from Harris Faulkner.
As a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we were divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr. President,
they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that, and Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So she was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country, and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs, and frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected by all of the millions of people that are pouring into our country. And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jails. They're gang members in other countries. Other countries are setting loose their prisoners. They're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're taking their bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President, I want to get into how you address some of the issues with black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
True.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts. And this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now. The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single black moms, when you look statistically. Yeah. How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, this woman was unable to get the right equipment. But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word. It's very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it. The inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had, in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating. And if you just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses. They no longer have the American dream. Young people, young black people, they don't have the American dream anymore. They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of the cost of the money. They can't buy it because of the cost of housing, because of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is a disaster, and it's destroying our country. And it's destroying the black community probably as much or more.
So what do you do?
Than any
What's your plan?
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's going to bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy by Joe Biden. By the way, just if I might, I was running against a man named Biden. You probably saw that. And he was losing very badly in the polls, and then he had a rather bad debate. I would say it was a bad debate. I would say it was one of the worst debates in history, and his poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, let's keep going and maybe something happens the other way, they said, oh, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight, a prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing what you say, let's bring in another fighter. So our whole campaign was steered toward him, and now we have to steer toward him. But ultimately it's the same because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders, unbelievable open borders, horrible energy policies. They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been, I think, in over 100 years, and they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58. whatever it may be. They don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country and the people in our country. Yes,
Mr. President, can I ask you another question that is also impacting?
Hold on, man. President Trump, you know, he says what he needs to say. He answered the question. He gave it quickly, but he had to pack it in with exactly what the American people need to hear, because they don't hear these things. They don't hear these things about Biden. They don't hear these things about Kamala. They don't hear these things. And so he's got to take this opportunity while he's in front of these people to really say it. And being that he is in front of some journalists, a lot of them hear it, but they cover their ears about it because they don't want to talk about it, and they don't report it back to their audience. So he knows that people are going to see this, and he's taken this opportunity to lay down his foundation, to lay down some of the things, and which is, of course, it is inflation, it is Bidenomics that's causing these things. We were well off. We were in a great place before the scamdemic or the plandemic was put into place. And so that threw things off, but we were doing well when President Trump was in. And so we're going to continue to do well once he gets back in. But we have to lay down the foundation that it is Joe Biden and his policies that has done this, because we were drilling here in America, and then they shut down these plants, and then we had to buy oil from foreign countries, you know, fracking, all of that. We can drill today and pull us out of this mess, but they won't do that because, oh, it's the environment. It's the climate change, and we're worried about the climate change. You know, these are their issues, and the American pair is paying for that with gas prices, with food prices, with housing, with everything. It's crazy, but that's what's happening.
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah. Well, police unions are not backing this person either. Okay. But again, why would
they're going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
you
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
Somebody, and it's a very close call, and it's very dangerous. And you know, they have the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing, because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that?
Hold on, before she continues. Oh, see, this is what I hate with this, because now I rolled myself all the way back Oh, I really, all right, let's try to, and then I can't see where we're at. Oh, man. All right, let's see.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
You go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody.
All right, we're back to her, but we're gonna replay that. So I just wanted to tap in to say I saw that story of the woman. Nate the lawyer did a really, really great video on that. He did a video on the first one, and then he did a second video about this woman. The police was called to her unit. She was having some issues. She had a pot of boiling water, and she attempted to throw it at the officer. He shot her like 3 times, and she's dead. So again, from my opinion and my point of view, bullets and a pot of water just don't go. I mean, I don't know how close she was with that pot of water, if she would have scolded him, melted him, but again, guns and a pot of water for me is just like, maybe, one shot could have shot her leg or something, or she couldn't kill you with the pot of water. Yes, she could have burned you, but 3 bullets, I don't know. For me, that's, but again, of course, that is a specific story, because there's other situations where the police did something and, they used their training. George Floyd, they used their training and so on to do whatever they needed to do. And, things happen. And there you have it. So this woman was in her home. She had something that could have hurt the policeman, but for me, using 3 bullets was probably a little bit too much. So, but President Trump is saying we have good people sometimes who may take a second and do the wrong thing in the moment, but we can't condemn them, because you know what? At the end of the day, they are human as well. And so we need to continue to protect the police, especially with these kinds of things. So this guy, I don't know, but that's neither here or there right now.
On it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent. I have another one where I have a hostile judge.
We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different topics.
Excuse me, you're the one that held me up at 35 minutes, just so you understand.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign. Senator JD Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past. He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children. Did you know that he had these views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate? And do you agree with him?
No, I know.
You know something? This woman, it's Abby Phillips all over again. It's the way they post it. I'm telling you, they must get the same memo. They must go through the same training classes. This is how you do it. This is how you ask it. This is how you do it. And this is like classic Abby Phillips. This is exactly what they do. Listen to the way she posed this question, the way she laid it out. And again, this thing is of no importance, but out of everything that you can talk to, this is what you have to say. This is what you come up with. Journalist, right?
This. He is very family oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks that if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people with families. I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just talking about families here. He also says that people that don't have children should get less votes than those that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
Is that your campaign
I think
position?
I'm speaking for him too. He strongly believes in family, but I know people with great families. I know people with not great families that don't have a family, and the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay? He's not saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But that doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody that would be wonderful to meet and would have been good, that that's a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him, actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family-oriented, but that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just one last point, and then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles of American life is one person, one vote. Senator JD Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I have ever heard before. I can tell you this. Right now you have illegal aliens coming into our country, many from prisons and many from mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came into our country illegally, and they're taking the vote away from all of the people in this room that have been here a long time, that have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it happen. If I am, you're not going to have any problem. But you're going to see it happening a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs to people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President, can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question was right in there with that. So let's talk about JD Vance for a little bit. He's had some stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters, but it's been a tough couple of weeks for him. Why did you choose JD Vance?
Why
did you choose him? And I'm having a hard time hearing too.
I chose him.
Everybody out there can, but it's hard.
I'll tell you why. I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work and the working man and woman, and especially the working man and woman who have been treated very unfairly, because you have many of them in this room. But you have many of those people, they were treated very unfairly. They worked very hard and they were treated unfairly. He wrote the book that became a bestseller. The movie became a smash hit. He's a very smart guy without the benefit of having a family that has contacts, like a father that was well-connected. He got into Yale Law School. He graduated in 2 years from Ohio State, summa cum laude. I mean, you take a look at, you know, his career has been an amazing career. He started off at a level with a difficult family situation, very difficult, with the mother and the father and everything else. He ends up going to Yale Law School and was one of the top students, became the head of the law journal. I mean, that's an amazing thing. He's a 4-year, he was in the military with great distinction for 4 years. Got out, went into business, became successful in business, very successful in business, actually. Did public offerings and other things. And I have to believe in that. I mean, he's somebody that was born in a rough situation. Most of the people know that situation because it was very well documented in his book. And I have a lot of respect for somebody that can get into Yale and become one of the best students in Yale, that meets a young woman at Yale who was also outstanding, and they get married, they have a beautiful family, but he had he's made himself an amazing life. He then goes to Ohio, lives in Ohio, and he had my endorsement. That helped. But he wins the Senate. He becomes a United States Senator. So he's a United States Senator. And so, Harris, like I respect you for your success, I respect people for their success.
The reason I asked the question is because the last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days after that...
I cannot understand. Your microphone
I know,
is so
it is really hard for me to understand you too.
I can understand you perfectly.
Because she's closer.
I can understand you.
I'm happy to hear that, sir.
But I can't
really
understand, Harris.
I have a few more questions.
Because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand
Are you asking a question?
what you're saying.
So what I wanted to say was the last time we spoke, you said some words that were prophetic because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yeah.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would bring, you choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words 3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at JD Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons than what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think JD is. I think that all of them would have been, but you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me. If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in.
JD Vance?
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in. To your point and to Rachel's point, he, has a lot of opinions about childless women like myself or divorced people like yourself. Do you think, my point is here.
But at least it was said in a friendly manner.
My point is, do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what JD Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the death. They're allowing the death of a baby after the baby is born, based on the governor of Virginia. Based on the governor of Virginia, they're allowing the death of the baby after it's born. They're allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well, Democrats have denied.
I think they're right. And I think the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps. But the Republican Party, what we're doing is bringing it back to the states where everybody wanted it. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted abortion brought back. They didn't want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it, everybody.
But the majority of Americans oppose Roe v. Wade being overturned.
They don't know about this. Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do also. But if you take a look, right now they're doing, it's an amazing thing, out of the federal government, it's in states, and people are voting. And I will say, Ohio is, let's call it a more liberal version, has been approved. Kansas, the same thing, a little bit surprising to a lot of people. But the people are now voting, and it's taking this issue that's been going on for 52 years and has torn our country apart, and it's giving it to the people to vote on. And they're voting. And many states have already voted. Others are in the process of voting. And it's bringing it back to the people and a vote of the people. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart. I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Most people believe in the 3 exceptions. Most Republicans believe in the exceptions. But they don't want to see an abortion in the 9th month or the 8th month. Almost everybody agrees to that. And they certainly don't want to see, in the case of the governor of Virginia, the former governor, I might add, who said, we set the baby aside and then we decide what to do. Meaning, what do? We execute the baby. That's a radical, horrible position. And some people want that. I don't want it. Most people don't.
Thank you. Can I just pivot really quickly to another question?
That is Donald Trump giving them the hammer on abortion. They don't want people to hear that. They don't want people to hear that these people are out here advocating to kill babies on the if a baby was in a botched abortion and the baby survived and the baby is laying there on the table, they are deciding to kill it rather than to take it to a hospital and help it. They advocate to kill it right there. We're going to finish the job. We're going to kill it right there. And they believe in abortion afterwards. That's crazy. That's murder. That's murder. And you have to call that out. You have to say it, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say it out loud for people to hear how radical the Democrats really are with this. I mean, you're killing it in the womb at 6 months. It can move. It can live on its own outside of the womb. You're killing it at 7 months, 8 months. It can live outside of the womb on its own. Why kill it when you can just birth it? And, then we the people will take care of it. We'll provide. It'll be taken care of, adoption and so forth. But no, they'd rather kill it.
About, you brought up health, Harris. You're an active man. We see you golfing all the time. But if you win, you'll still be president at 82.
No.
Which is older than Biden is right now.
But not mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He's shot. But most people.
Would you
most people. I know many people in their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders. You look at throughout the world history, the greatest leaders, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's the question. Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would make,
I think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know. Look, if I came onto a stage like this and I got treated so rudely as this woman treated me.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm fine with it because she was very rude, sir. Very rude. That was that wasn't a question. She didn't ask me a question. She gave a statement. That wasn't a question.
I repeated your statement, sir, actually.
You said you would. You would.
Oh,
make that
absolutely.
decision
If I
to step
thought
down.
that I was failing in some way, I want people to be sharp. I'll go a step further. I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea. And I took 2 of them and I aced them.
Well,
I took 2 of them. But let me ask you.
Yeah.
I would like to have people running for president, and I don't mean because they're 75 or 85. I think anybody running, I'd like to do it. People say it's not constitutional. I would like to have something passed where you can do it. I think we should know. I mean, I've watched what's happened in the last couple of years under this gentleman, and our country is a mess. We have inflation. We have the millions of people falling in. We have Afghanistan, which was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. What he has done to our country, and her too, what they've done to our country, she has been a horrible vice president. She's considered the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to do it.
In public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend to...
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her, too. I would do it with her also. You know what? She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive test.
Mr. President, are you saying she wouldn't pass? Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
To be clear, you don't think Harris...
How do you intend...
She didn't pass her bar exam, and she didn't think she would pass it, and she didn't think she was going to ever pass it. And I don't know what happened. Maybe she passed it.
She did pass it.
There's a man over here. I think he must work for her.
Mr. President, I would love to ask you about January 6th. You've called...
And I think it's disgraceful that, and I'm fine with it because she was very rude, sir.
Gosh, stop it. So President Trump is deadly beastly. So do we know how many times did Kamala Harris take her bar exam? Or did they finally just say, you know what, you've taken it so many times, we're going to just say you passed it? Like, I want to know, did she really pass it? I mean, this woman, when you listen to her, she makes no sense at all. It's like she's pulling things out of the air. And I know I do that sometimes. But man, you are the vice president of the United States of America. You're this big deal person who went to this big deal school and is doing these big deal things. So you should have these things on point. But when you listen to her speak, she really doesn't seem to be that smart. She doesn't seem to be the sharpest tool in the shed. She don't seem to be sharp at all. And you wonder, how she got to where she's at. I know she slept her way to the top with Mr. Willie and Mr. Montel and others who knows. But my goodness, she really doesn't seem to be very smart.
Very rude. That was a nasty, that wasn't a question. She
Sir,
didn't ask me a question. She gave a statement. That wasn't a question. You'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to the people that tried to
My question is on those rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
would you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well, they were convicted by a very tough system. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle, how come nothing happened to them? How come the people
sir, we're talking about people that were seen beating officers with flagpoles, dragging them down the stairs. They're on video. Have you seen that video, sir?
Oh, really? Well,
you would pardon those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face who was protesting. They shot her in the face. You know, nobody died that day. You do know that. But people died in Seattle. Nobody died, but people died in Minneapolis. You know people died in Minneapolis. And nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those people. But you went after the J6 people with a vengeance. And I'll tell you what about the cops that were, and I'm all for the police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in. What about that? Look, nothing is perfect in life. But you have people from Minneapolis, you have people just from 5 days ago in Washington, D.C. They were having fistfights and fighting with the police. They were spraying and destroying, they were desecrating our monuments in Washington, D.C. 5 days ago, and nothing happened to them. And you can't have two systems of justice. That's why they went after me as a political opponent, because they felt they couldn't win without doing that. And we're going to win our cases, and we're going to be vindicated. But I have to spend a lot of time on that and money. That's what they want. After the election, they won't care. Although in my case, I think they probably will, because the hatred is pretty deep. But I'll tell you, they went after me as a political opponent. That's never happened in our country before, and it sets a terrible, terrible precedent.
What do you do on day one if you win? What's your first thing?
What do I do?
That woman in the blue, as President Trump is talking, she's very uncomfortable. She's like signaling to the people at the bottom. She's making, you know, she's just very, like, he's saying too much. Like, we don't like what he's saying. We need to shut him down. Like, you can't see the rest of the women's faces, but you can see her and her reaction because she's so close to President Trump. And you can see her reaction. She's just like, I need him to shut up. Can you shut him up? I need him to do something. Somebody do something. Somebody do something, because he's saying too much. He's saying too much.
I close the border, and I do two things, because I can do a lot of things simultaneously. I close the border. We don't want people coming in. We want people to come in, Harris, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. They have to come in legally. We want people. I want people to come into our country, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. So when you say, what do I do? That, and I drill, baby, drill. I bring energy way down. I bring interest rates down. I bring inflation way down so people can buy bacon again, so people can buy a ham sandwich again, so that people can go to a restaurant and afford it. Because right now, people can't buy food. Your grocery bills are up 40, 50, 60%, right? She's agreeing to me. Oh, she's agreeing. Thank you. I like you very much.
Mr. President, I think we are.
But it's true. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that you buy an all-electric car. You know, Elon Musk endorsed me, and he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. But I'm against everybody having an electric car, okay? I'm very much against that. You have to be able to, if you want a hybrid or if you want a gasoline-propelled car. But, you know, we have more liquid gold, gasoline, oil, under our feet than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than any other country. I want to use it. I want to use what we have. I want to bring down prices, bring down costs. And I also have to stop the invasion. And remember, they're taking your jobs. These people coming in are taking your jobs.
Project 2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right.
So leave it. That is the last word. Thank you so much, Mr. Trump, for coming today and joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
They've been telling us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, very much. Great
Thank
honor.
you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
NABJ will email about details regarding the conversation with
Okay, so there you have it, President Trump and these women, and again, Faulkner is Harris Faulkner is not a part of the establishment part, but she really, she did give President Trump some good ones. But those other women, they were nasty. They were getting ready to jump into Project 2025. If they were on time, they probably would have gotten Trump on 2025. Maybe they should have started with that. Get that most important question out of the way so he can say exactly what Project 2025 is, so that the American people can hear for themselves that this thing is just common sense rules, common sense things. There's nothing scary about Project 2025. Actually, we need Project 2025 so we can get this country back in order.
Seen that, heard that. Good.
So, friends, you have it. There you have it. These propagandist women, these propagandist mouthpieces for the Democrat Party is always going to be that. They never really give you a fair shake. They treat you like crap when you go on their program. Hint, hint, Abby Phillips. And this is what they do. I recently was at an event where Congressman Byron Donalds was there. And I got to have a few minutes with him. I'll stick a picture. And so I said to him in our moment together, I was like, I am a YouTuber. I make videos. And one of the things I love to cover is watching you demolish the media like Abby Phillips when you bring her to Jesus. I just enjoyed those moments where you handle her correctly. And this is what you need to continue to do. And he loved it. And, he was very gracious, and we had a really nice moment together. So, yeah. And this is what you have to continue to do. You have to continue to call them out, put them in their place. Again, they all get the same memo, and they come up and they talk about the same thing. They treat people like crap. And then when they have Democrats on there, they treat them like kings and queens. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is the president of the United States of America. How dare you treat him this way when he comes out of his way to have conversations with your Black people, with your Black community, and this is how you treat him. You're a bulldog, and it's disgraceful and it's disgusting. And it reminds me of Pitbull Figaro, and it's the same setup when they had Vivek Ramaswamy on their show, treating him that way. When they had Larry Elder on their show, treating him that way. They all do the same thing, and it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Anyway, friends, that's going to be the video. I thank you for taking the time and going along with me for this ride. I know this was a long video to do, but hey, I wanted to watch the full thing. I hadn't watched it, and I didn't want to just pull clips and things like that. I wanted to really experience the whole thing, and I said, you know what, I'll react to the whole thing. So thanks for taking the time. I really do appreciate it. And tell me in the comments, let's have a conversation about the 3 reporters. How do you think, what do you think about the 3? I don't know what the woman's name in the middle is, but Rachel was the first one in the blue, the dinosaur in the blue, and then Faulkner was the one with the pretty colors on. And so talk to me about the different mannerism and the way they spoke with President Trump. And we know that Harris Faulkner, she is a conservative. Maybe that's why, because she's a conservative and she has good values, and so she knows how to interact with human beings, where the other 2, they just don't, right? They don't know how to interact with human beings, and because they're Democrat propagandists. Anyway, I'm going to get off the soapbox. Thank you again. God bless you and keep you, and I will see you in another episode.